Welcome to the Base Path Podcast, brought to you by New England Baseball Journal. I'm your host, Dan Guttenplan, along with our MIAA reporter, Pat Donnelly. Pat, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been an exciting first half of the season. You've been doing power rankings every Monday. You've been doing peak performers on Friday with the 10 top players from the week, and that's all been going really well. And this week, you're going to have a midseason report on MIAA with some of the teams that stand out, some of the teams that need to pick it up here in the second half. Players that have shined, all that types of stuff. Now, I wanted to ask you, because last week you covered an Andover baseball game.
Yes.
And this weekend, I guess they got in trouble for pitching someone who you saw last week on Wednesday. I guess Ryan Gillette, who is committed to UMass.
That would be Chris Gillette.
Or Chris Gillette.
Yes,
yeah, excuse me, Chris Gillette. He's committed to UMass. I guess he pitched on Saturday. Did you catch this story?
I did not, actually. This morning when you told me coming in, it was the first I heard about it.
Yep.
But it's interesting because he did. I had a loose pitch count. I can't tell you the exact number he threw on. I think it was Monday, the game against North Andover. But complete game, 7 innings. He was obviously getting up there in the pitch count. Some extended innings here and there. So pretty interesting. Yeah,
I was looking into it. I guess. So it looks like he threw 105 pitches, and then I was looking at MIAA rules, and if you pitch 71 to 115 pitches, you need 4 full days of rest. So that would be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But the way that they do it, I almost was wondering why this didn't get caught like during the course of the game, because coaches designate on their lineup cards which players are not eligible to pitch that day.
Mm-hmm.
So the other coach would see, hey, like this guy's not on your list. I thought he pitched Monday. Why don't we talk about this before the game? And, these rules are in place to protect the player. So you don't really want to kind of play gotcha with these rules and say, hey, let's protest the game now that he's on the mound. You do want to protect the players. Also, coaches are supposed to confirm pitch counts every 2 innings. And at the conclusion of the game, in the case of a dispute, the home team has the official count. So it seems like somewhere there was a miscommunication. Yep. I don't know how that stuff happens, but it looks like Andover may end up having either to forfeit that game or they may end up replaying it, depending on what the MIAA decides. But that's a pretty crazy story. We do want to take a look at the power rankings, because Andover is number 2 in Division I in the power rankings. BC High is number 1.
Mm-hmm.
I think you've gotten a chance to see both those teams. What are your impressions of those 2 top teams in Division I?
Yeah, so I think BC High is one of those teams that's been, as advertised. Nobody's really been able to touch that pitching staff so far. 4 no-hitters, which is pretty insane so far this early in the season. Liam Kineen has been fantastic. He had a no-hitter, I believe, against St. John's Prep last week. He and Brody Beal combined for a no-hitter against Taunton. And then you look at the plate, it's been Cole Bohane has been, picking right up where he left off as the reigning Catholic Conference MVP. So they're kind of firing on all cylinders. They had their first loss this week against St. John's Shrewsbury, another one of those teams as good as advertised.
Yeah.
But Andover, they've surged up my rankings pretty quickly. I think I had them 7th coming into the season, give or take. They're in the top 5 now. They've been hanging at 4 for a couple weeks. Big win against North Andover last week that I saw. It was a lot of quick strike offense for them in that game. Not a ton going early in the game, stranding some runners, but then all it took was a good 6th inning. They explode to a 3-0 lead, and Chris Gillette has been fantastic on the mound. I think he was one of our players to watch coming into the season. Obviously, a UMass commit, one of the better arms in the state, had a complete game in that game. They've been right there. It'd be interesting to see when if they play more kind of heavy hitters on their schedule, when a Central Catholic comes up. I believe they might have lost to Central Catholic already. I might be mixing up North Andover and Andover here. But again, one of those teams you kind of were eager to see against maybe some tougher competition coming forward.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually should explain how this MIAA Power Rankings work, because you have experience with it with hockey too. Mm-hmm. It's based on record, strength of schedule. What are the components? How does this work? How do you see it working, the MIAA Power Rankings that come out? Because some of these teams are buried here, like Franklin, for instance, is 35th right now with a 4-4 record. I suspect that, they're going to move up if they have a good second half of the year. Taunton's at 5. How do these power rankings work in your mind?
So to me, my best understanding of it has been sort of like if you're familiar with college hockey and the pairwise.
Yeah.
Where it's your strength of schedule, your opponent's strength of schedule, opponent's strength of schedule, where all the math kind of comes together and spits out a number.
Right.
So that's my best understanding of it. Obviously, I could be wrong, but that's kind of been the way I've understood it. Especially where we've talked about Andover's strength of schedule right now. That'll get even bigger down when you get later in May into early June when the tournament's starting to get going. So it's kind of, like you said, Franklin's kind of buried, but in the Hockomock, it's a really tough conference.
Yeah.
So be interesting to see if they can get hot here, how much they can rise.
Yeah, it's funny because the Hockomock was a really good conference last year. Taunton and Franklin ended up playing in the state championship game at the Division I level. So I wonder if even it's not quite weighted properly yet. We're still only, some of these teams have only played 6 games into the season, 5 games into the season. So it's difficult to really get a good read. Number 3, though, is a surprise with Braintree. They're 8-1 right now. They have a really proud tradition. They won state championships, I think, back in 2016, 17-ish area. Bill O'Connell's been there for a while. He's really established a great program. He's been on our radar a lot with Team Massachusetts, putting together that team every summer. And he's been texting me and emailing me over the last couple of weeks, like, hey, keep an eye on us. We're doing really well. What do you know about Braintree?
Yeah, so Braintree is I might have been a little reluctant for kind of no reason at all, but they're finally in my top 10 now. Yep. They've won 9 straight since the season opening loss to Walpole, which has also been very good to start the season. 5 shutouts. They've scored, I think, 6 or more runs in 8 of their 9 wins. They've hung double digits pretty frequently this season. Yeah. And the thing that stood out to me, too, is they're kind of getting, for all of their production, it's not just a couple guys leading the way every game. It's been contributions throughout the lineup, whether it's Sam Garrity, Sean O'Rourke, Hayden Regan, others. And then, on the mound, you have Sam DeRoche, who's been one of their workhorses.
Yeah, absolutely. They have a really good team. I look for them in the tournament because, like I said, Bill O'Connell has that experience coaching state championship teams. He could be a good coach to take them through the postseason. Some other teams here in these power rankings in the Division I side, Central Catholic is number 4 right now. They're only 5-2, so still early for them, and that's why we're waiting until this week. We had our midseason report for Preps last week. They're already halfway through their season. MIAA is a little bit behind because the schedule doesn't start until April. Taunton, defending state champion, they're hanging tough at 8-2, number 5 in the power rankings. They're doing fine. And Leominster, who is always, a really proud program. They've kind of bounced between Division I and Division II over the last few years, but they're in Division I this year, and they're at number 6. Any of those teams that you see, kind of getting hot here down the stretch?
Yeah, I could see Leominster. I believe it's 6 straight wins for them. They had a big win over Central Catholic. Central Catholic's also debuting in the top 10 this week. My top 10, not the MIAA power rankings.
Yep.
And so, kind of interesting to see if they can keep this going. Taunton, too, had, I don't know if inconsistency is the right word, but, a couple, choppy starts to the season, not ripping across number of wins in a row, but they've caught fire lately. I think they've won 5 of their last 6. Jack Calley's been really good on the mound. Braden Calley obviously doing his thing. So I think they're definitely going to still remain a factor in D1.
Yeah, they're always tough in the postseason. It just seems like they always get hot at the right time, or at least they have over the last 3 or 4 years. Also, other teams just to mention in Division I, and just to differentiate between your power rankings and these MIAA power rankings, like I said, you're kind of ranking it as if these are the top teams. This is how I think it's going to end up and play out over the course of the season. Whereas the MIAA power rankings, a team like Franklin that's off to a tough start, 4-4, or even I think a Catholic Memorial, for instance, is 4-3. They're down low. But if any of these teams really get hot, either in the Catholic Conference or, the Hockomock, they could really move up. Some notes that I had of teams that are outside the top 10 in the MIAA power rankings that kind of caught my eye and were a little bit of a surprise. Westford Academy at 5-1. Last year, they were undefeated during the regular season and ended up losing their first game in the state tournament. They came back with a 5-1 record this year. their conference doesn't get a lot of, I guess, respect from these MIAA power rankings. So even at number 11, they're a team to kind of keep an eye on here because they are coming off an undefeated season. St. John Shrewsbury is at number 13 right now in the MIAA power rankings. I believe we'll look to see them move up to, when they're playing some of these teams like BC High and Catholic Memorial. And then, like I said, Franklin at 35. Any teams outside the top 10 that you really think are threats to kind of make a run here?
Yeah, and, really quickly, just kind of like on the power ranking, it's still a little wonky, like you mentioned, where, it's a later start to the season. Some teams really didn't get going until a week ago because of rain and weather. But, I think St. John Shrewsbury, for me, is going to make its way up there pretty shortly. I have them too in my personal rankings. Noah Basgard, Braden Mercier, Connor Sechrist, all been great at the plate. Brady Shea and Jack Roche have been, strong on the mound. And I think they handed BC High their first loss of the season last week. Kind of two powerhouses in the state going at it. Mm-hmm. And so I think that kind of shows you a lot, especially they were up, I believe, 8-4 going to the 7th inning, and Jack Roche comes in, gives it a 3-run double, but then settles in, does his thing, closes the game out, one run win. And I think that is a win that can do a lot for your team, especially over a BC High conference rival, the team everyone's saying is the team to beat. I think that's a huge boost. And then elsewhere, I'd look at CM. I think that, haven't been lighting the world on fire, like you mentioned, 4-4, but they have some huge wins, whether it's St. John's Prep, Milton, Franklin. They gave Zavarian a scare. They gave BC High a scare. I think it was like 9-8. Especially like that's a staff no one has been really able to touch, like I mentioned, but to get 8 runs and be right there against BC High, I think shows a lot about what CM can do down the stretch here. Especially, Liam McKinney has been, I think, really strong as a freshman. I believe he's a freshman, and the outfielder, athletic kid, has been really strong at the plate, hit a triple against BC High. And again, like no one's done that against BC High this season. So I think CM's one of those, I don't know if sleeper is the right word, but I think they're definitely someone to keep an eye on.
Yeah, it's funny. I always, whenever I see these BC High highlights or headlines, BC High throws another no-hitter. Yeah. I'm always like, am I reading like a story that's 4 days old, or do they do it again? And their pitching has been unbelievable. Let's take a look at D2 now. And like you said, that Braintree opening day loss to Walpole doesn't look so bad anymore because Walpole has settled into that top spot in the Division II MIAA power rankings. Some of these other teams at the top, Plymouth North, a proud baseball tradition there. They're at 6-2. Or these rankings came out Friday, so these records might be, they might have another game in here. Milton is at number 3. You said they're out of your power rankings for the first time this season. 2-time defending champion Milton, but 4-3. Yeah, that's not the best record there in Division II.
Yeah, I think they're at 4-4 right now. There was a 16-0 loss to Braintree, which is a little concerning.
Yeah.
Lost to CM, and again, CM's no pushover, obviously. There's there's no easy games, but their schedule does kind of lighten up a little bit over the next few weeks. You wonder if they can get on a run because, you look at their heavy hitter, especially, Scott Longo is a two-way threat. He's been as advertised this season. Mm-hmm. So it's just one of those, if Milton can get on a run, I think they'll be perfectly fine.
Yeah, and they have Tommy Mitchell, too, on the mound. He's a Elon commit. Mm-hmm. I think he's up near 90 miles an hour. He was hurt most of the season last year, but if he's healthy going into the postseason this year, with Scott Longo, like you said, they could certainly make a run. Westwood, Norwood, Hopkinton round out the top 6. Just some teams that I have on my radar as possible threats here in the if they get into the tournament as a low seed, I would say these teams could be dangerous. Masconomet at 7-1, they're kind of a North Shore power. They always seem to make a little bit of a run in the tournament. And then Whitman Hanson at 7-2. They're at number 15 right now in the MIAA power rankings. Who do you like here in Division II outside of the Walpoles and Plymouth Norths?
Yeah, I like Whitman Hanson. I've had them in my top 10 consistently this season. Ryan Baker, Evan Yakovonis have been, I think, pretty strong on the mound. Yakovonis has been, I believe, pretty good two-way threat so far. They've just been finding ways to get it done. 7-1, my last check on the record, and they're pretty low in the power rankings right now. So say that holds and they get it, they stay as a lower seed, they could probably make some hay getting in there.
Oh yeah, Yeah, they'd be a tough first-round opponent for one of these higher-seeded teams. Netting Professionals is proud to be the official netting partner of the Cape Cod League and the New England Collegiate Baseball League. Netting Professionals is in the sports business of improving athletic programs one facility at a time. Netting Professionals designs, fabricates, and installs custom netting, wall padding, windscreen, batting practice equipment, and much more for high schools, colleges, commercial facilities, and stadiums throughout the United States, while providing high-quality products and great service to numerous baseball programs throughout the New England area. To learn more and to speak to a Netting Professionals representative today, visit them at nettingpros.com. Remember, when it comes to netting, it's Netting Professionals.
Are you serious about playing your sport in college? Do you need a flexible education that allows you to maintain your practice and competition schedules while also preparing you to succeed at the next level? You should check out the University of Nebraska High School. UNHS is accredited and offers more than 100 online courses, including NCAA-approved courses to protect your academic eligibility. Students could earn a UNHS diploma or take a single course for transfer credit. Courses are college prep, self-paced, and available 24/7, 365. Enroll anytime and take up to a year to complete a course. Visit highschool.nebraska.edu today.
Attention coaches, need baseball bat bags that last? Meet No Errors, crafting premium quality bags since 2004, the top choice for durability. Choose from stock bags for quick delivery or our semi-custom program for personalized logos in just 10 to 12 days. For a unique team look, try our full custom program. Let No Errors design your next team bags. Visit noerrors.com. That's no-errors.com for details. No Errors, where durability meets style.
Looking to keep up with all the latest news and information on New England baseball? New England Baseball Journal and baseballjournal.com are the premier resources for information and inspiration on the New England baseball scene. Have every issue of New England Baseball Journal, the magazine, delivered to your home or office. And don't forget to stay in the game every day with a digital subscription to baseballjournal.com to receive baseball coverage on clubs, college commits, prep and high school, Division 1, 2, and 3 colleges, showcases, rankings, and much more. Get in the game and behind the scenes now by going to baseballjournal.com. Just click on the subscribe button and start the subscription that is right for you today. New England Baseball Journal is a Seamans Media publication. Seamans Media. Inspiring, informative, insightful.
Division 3, you mentioned this to me when I just got to the office this morning. St. Mary's has been really tough in Division 3. If you look at their power rankings, it's them and Apponequet.
Yeah.
Apponequet Regional. Oakmont's always seems to be there at the top of Division 3. They're in the 3 spot right now. And then there's kind of a little bit of a next tier of teams in the low 4s for whatever that means for their rankings. But, Tantascwa Regional is up there, Hanover, Blackstone Valley, Greater Lowell Tech. I like Gloucester at the number 9 right now, ranked number 9 in Division 3. They've made some runs over the years. And then Pentucket at 27. I have a friend whose mother she's the mother of one of the kids on Pentucket. And every time I see her, she's like, "Hey, you should have Pentucket in your rankings. They're going to make a run this year." So I wanted to give them a mention. But who do you like in Division 3 so far this year?
Yeah, I think it's hard to ignore St. Mary's 8-0 start. They put everyone on notice start of the year with a win over Milton to open their season.
Right.
Undefeated at the Ripken Experience down at Myrtle Beach. That's always, not every team does that obviously, but for your team to go on the road, band together, go undefeated there was a pretty big comeback win. Jake Newhall came through with the walk-off, and, to have that sort of bonding experience, I think does a lot for your team. And, whether it's Josh Doney on the mound, Jack Zimmerman, Jaden Driscoll at the plate, I think it's, sort of been the perfect combination of everything so far for St. Mary's.
That's all. Yeah, that's great. They're making another. They've always been in the mix. Avon Cabral, who's a really good pitcher at Northeastern now, he was a freshman All-America last year. he went to St. Mary's. So even when he was there, they were competing for state championships every year. So they have a proud tradition. Now, D4, D5, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know much about these two divisions, but just to give you kind of the breakdown, East Bridgewater is at the top of Division 4. Northbridge, Linfield, Uxbridge, and Abington kind of round out that top 5. I know Linfield, I used to cover the Cape Ann League with Newburyport and Linfield and those types of teams that made deep runs. So I would watch out for Linfield. They could certainly make a run in the tournament. Uxbridge has been there for a couple of years in a row. And then Division 5, Georgetown's at the top, 9-0 record. They've actually made some deep tournament runs in the past, decade or so. So keep an eye on them. And then Hopkins Academy, I think they were in the championship game for Division 5 last year. Any of these D4, D5 teams look good to you?
Yeah, Georgetown's a team that I've kind of consistently just seen pop up when I've been checking box scores and, social media, because sometimes, stats aren't the most consistent things out there that we can find.
Right.
And so Georgetown has sort of been just kind of in my back of my head all season, even though they're D5, they're still putting up some crazy numbers, 15 runs, 12 runs, 11, 10, 13, 18, just go down the line. They're consistently putting up huge offensive numbers. They actually beat Linfield last week head to head 7-6. So I think they're sort of the team to watch right now in D5.
Yeah, Georgetown they used to, their coach Mark Rowe was there for a while, and then he ended up moving to Newburyport. But when he was at Georgetown, he really established it as a perennial state championship contender. I want to put this on your radar. I don't know if you'll have anything off the top of your head on this today, but last year what we did towards the end of the year for our MIA beat writer is we did 10 semifinalists for MIA Player of the Year right at the end of the regular season, and then right before the championship weekend in mid-June, we actually selected the one Player of the Year, MIA Player of the Year. You've mentioned quite a few guys, at the D1, D2, D3 level who could be in that mix. Do you have any, finalist in mind for if you were to pick 10 guys who might be state Player of the Year contenders? You mentioned Scott Longo. I would think he'd maybe be on that list. And then, obviously BC High's probably got a couple guys that could be in that discussion. Yeah,
on the spot. Right now, just off the top of my head, I would say probably Liam Kineen might be my favorite right now, just for how dominant BC High's pitching staff has been. He's been a part of 2 no-hitters already, 1 solo, 1 combined. Just how nobody's been able to touch him, which I've said several times for BC High already. But that's kind of the best way to describe it so far for how good he's been, and that staff really as a whole. So I would put him in there. Cole Bohane has been great. Offensively, and then just kind of going down the line here, St. John's Shrewsbury, you have Noah Basgard and Brady Shea are kind of their headliners, but obviously they've had other guys contributing as well, whether it's Connor Seacrest. I think there's kind of no shortage of options right now. Maybe the edge might go to BC High, one of BC High's pitchers, probably Kineen right now.
Yeah.
But I think there's still plenty of time for other guys to firmly enter the race.
And we included postseason into the consideration last year for the finalists. It ended up being Owen McHugh from Milton High, and he ended up going off to Williams and playing 2 sports. He played football and baseball. So it was a good choice last year. He had a great state tournament, so we included that. Let's do some predictions. We did this in the beginning. I don't know if you're going to hold to those ones here halfway through the season, or if you've changed your mind. And we're allowing you the right to change your mind here at the mid-season point.
Okay.
MIA Division 1. Obviously, BC High is the number 1 seed. I think before the season you picked Taunton. Is that right?
Yes, I definitely had them as the top seed. Kind of giving the edge to the reigning champs. I think right now I would have to go BC High, which hurts a little bit as a Malden Catholic guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's just no other way to say it. We've been harping on all show, whether it's the pitching staff or the offense. They've been the full package so far.
Yeah. No, they've definitely had the best team over the first half of the season. I'm still going to stick with Taunton, though. I think they've made too many deep runs. I remember just sitting there in the state championship game last year. I think it was in Worcester. It was at Polar Park. And just sitting there being like, I'm not picking against Taunton next year.
Yeah.
They just do this every year. I always say maybe it'll be Franklin or St. John Shrewsbury, and then it's always Taunton. So I'm going to stick with them so far until I see them not win in a state tournament game. D2, I don't remember who you had in the beginning of it. Did you have Milton as your favorite?
I think I might have.
Yeah. I probably did too, because they're a 2-time state champion too, and I kind of like that pedigree. I'm going to probably go Walpole here because I really like that upset over Braintree on opening day to kind of get their season started. Who do you like in Division 2?
Yeah, it's kind of a cop-out, but I'm also going to go with Walpole. I mean, it's easy because they're first in the power rankings, but, 8-2 start. You look at their schedule, the teams they've beaten, Braintree, King Philip, Mansfield, St. John's Prep. And now St. John's Prep hasn't had the best start, but, they're still always a factor. And even their losses, whether it's Milton, Zavarian, those have been close.
Yeah.
I think just what they've been able to do through a really strong schedule so far kind of bodes well for them.
Yeah, St. John's Prep has they're winning state championships in all different sports. A little bit down in baseball. I think a lot of the spring sports athletes are playing lacrosse. I just saw they're defending state champs and they're number one again. So maybe that's what's going on with St. John's Prep. Division 3, St. Mary's is 7-0. Oakmont at 6-0 is my pick. They were undefeated, at least at the time of the power rankings. They might be, that was a couple days ago, but Oakmont made a deep run last year. I think they won the state tournament last year for Division 3. Who do you like in Division 3?
Yeah, it's hard to discount St. Mary's so far. It's another sort of cop-out, going with the top team in the power rankings. But I have them pretty high in my top 10. I believe they're 6th this week. For a D3 team to kind of climb that high in the top 10 through this start that they've had, I think is pretty impressive.
Yeah, they always kind of end these power rankings with like an RPI type ranking. It's like a formula. And I do really follow that because that usually tells you, if you have a team that's getting like a 6, for example, BC High is getting 6.6, and then the next best team is Andover at 6.0, and then it's a bunch of 5s. BC High is really way ahead, which shows me, they're beating good teams. And they're in Division 3. St. Mary's is a 5.6. Apponequet is 5.2. And then everybody else is like mid-4s, low-4s. So St. Mary's does have that strength of schedule to their advantage. D4, D5, do you have any predictions in there?
D4, D5, I would, we've talked about Georgetown already. If they can sustain the offense they've had, it's hard to see, even if they run into a good pitching staff, it's hard to see someone stopping what they've been able to do so far.
Yeah.
And then D4, I'd probably lean right now Linfield. Like you said, sort of that pedigree. Even though it was D5 opponent Georgetown, they were right there the whole game. It was a good game, back and forth, 7-6. So I would give the edge to Linfield right now.
Okay. You talked me into Georgetown. I'm gonna go with them, and then I'm gonna go Uxbridge D4 because they were close last year, and I could imagine that they will be hungry this year heading into the state tournament. All right, let's do our 3 up, 3 down segment. You've done this before, Pat. We're gonna go to our producer David Yaz, and he comes up with the questions for this, and we have no idea what they will be.
3 up, 3 down.
Yes, welcome back to 3 Up, 3 Down. 3 questions for each of our panelists. They are completely unprepared and slightly nervous looking right now. Don't worry, guys. It'll work out fine. Question number 1. If a baseball robot could be created that would be excellent at baseball, what position would you put him at? Dan, you get to answer this question first. And here's the nuance. He can't play pitcher. That wouldn't be fair.
I was going to go would it be cheating to do like Shohei Ohtani and do pitcher and hitter, but no pitcher. Okay.
Just get greedy. Come on. You only get one robot. Where are you going to put him on the field? Assuming we've created this robot that is excellent at baseball.
I'd probably say catcher. If you could have a monster, hitter, and then also somebody who's just perfect behind the plate, gunning, limiting the running on the base paths and also calling a great game behind the plate, I'd go catcher.
I guess the robot would have artificial intelligence to call the game.
Yeah.
Pat, where would you put him?
I would probably go center field. I think, the robot could probably have some crazy range and even like some pretty, I'd imagine it would have pretty good hops to get balls going over the fence.
Yeah, right. I mean, the robot presumably could jump 100 feet in the air.
Yeah, maybe they have to handicap it a little bit. But even then, say he only has like a 10-foot vertical.
Yeah, see, the thing about the catcher is, it's a good answer, Dan, but you can only have him throw so fast, right? Because if he throws 150 miles an hour, he's going to break the hands of the infielders, probably, right? I mean, there has to be a limit.
I didn't even think of that. He could probably gun someone down from deep center at home.
For sure.
I think you'd put his setting at 105 miles an hour or something like that.
Right, something reasonable.
Yep.
All right. Well, we have that to look forward to in the future, no question.
Yes.
Let's see. Next question on 3 Up, 3 Down. What's your favorite memory of listening to baseball on the radio? Which seems like less people do these days, let's face it. But it's one of those wistful baseball nostalgia things. Dan, you want to take that one first?
Yeah. So I have really fond memories of listening to baseball on the radio growing up in the Philadelphia area. I used to, whatever time my parents would send me to bed, depending on how old I was, but, maybe when I was like 10, they'd send me to bed at 9 o'clock. So I would watch, 4 or 5 innings of the Phillies game with my dad. And then we would go, I would go to bed and I turned on the radio and it was Harry Callis, who's, he was the voice of like NFL films for a while, just a great radio voice. And then after
Mickey Morandini.
Yes, yeah,
that's my Harry Callis.
That sounds like it. But he was amazing, and that really is probably when I really fell in love with baseball, listening to him call Phillies games.
Pat, how about you?
I would say it's pretty similar. When I would go to bed when I was younger, we'd put the Red Sox on the radio. You have Joe Castiglione on EEI. Even driving home from Little League with my dad, or even like when I had hockey practice late at night and it was still baseball season, we'd probably throw the radio on and you'd have Joe Castiglione on the call. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've been spoiled with Joe Castiglione, who I think is going to the Baseball Hall of Fame, if I'm not mistaken. The color men he has had over the years have sort of varied, but I used to enjoy Troop. Do you remember Jerry Trupiano?
Yeah, I do.
Way back! He was annoying to some, but I enjoyed him.
I used to like the Patriots announcer, Gil Santos.
Oh, he's the best.
Yeah, he had a good voice for it. Do you have a Joe Castiglione impression, yes? It's kind of like, it's a pop-up.
Swing and a pop-up.
Yeah.
I always love the swing and a miss strike 3 call on the Shaw Star Market Red Sox radio network.
Star Market radio. Bad news from the Bronx. Those are his catchphrases. No, I don't have a very good Joe Castiglione to answer your question, I guess. All right. Last question, and Pat, you can go first. It's a tough question. How do you describe baseball to someone who knows nothing about it whatsoever and is learning about it for the first time? I guess the question is, where would you start?
Ooh.
I told you it was a tough question.
There's a lot of places to start. I would think you could just start with, it's as simple as, here's the guy that throws the ball and you're trying to just hit it out of the park. Okay. I think that's kind of maybe the simplest and maybe most exciting way, because people love home runs. I think that's an easy way for a casual fan to get into it.
So you wouldn't start with the balk rule, for example?
Oh, no.
Right. I think that's a pretty good answer. Because if you just learn the home run, then you could learn that, and hopefully someone hits a home run that day, and they can be like, okay, I get that. That's cool.
Something to get excited about no matter what.
Right. Dan, how about you?
I'm trying to think of, how you would write a story about it, because you want to hook somebody early on in the story and make it as exciting as possible. So I don't know that I would say like, the framework is it's a 9-inning game, it's untimed, I don't know that would hook somebody. So I think I'd be like, you step into the batter's box, somebody's firing a pitch at you, 80 and 90 miles an hour, depending on what level of play. And you're just trying to crush the ball and, run around the bases before anybody tags you out or, gets the ball to the base that you're running to before you get there.
Yeah. It's when you get into the details, you can realize how baseball is like nonsensical. Like, why is it 3 strikes and 4 balls? Because it just is. Yeah. I don't know. Yep. Somebody figured that out once. Why is it 9 innings? Why the whole thing. Yeah. Thankfully, listeners to this podcast at least know the difference between a balk and catcher's interference, I think. Anyway, fine answers, both, and we are, as a parting gift, you both receive a baseball robot. As soon as they are created, it will be shipped to your home.
Wow.
Enjoy it, but use it responsibly, of course.
Sounds dangerous.
Yes. Okay. Back to you, Dan, to wrap things up today.
All right. Well, thank you to Pat Donnelly for joining us on the Base Path Podcast. Rate, review, subscribe to the Base Path Podcast on your preferred platform. Thanks to our producer, David Yaz. The Base Path Podcast is a Seamans Media production.